in their processes of robbing us, the Aboriginal people, who they branded Negroes, blacks, and coloreds and Latinos. And now they want to be sovereign. They can't be sovereign unless they're home. So when you're talking anywhere on at Midgard in a jurisdictional issue relative to impropriate persona principle, can't be impropriate persona and then claim to be something that you're not. The same way that our people cannot be impropriate persona, claim to be somebody that they're not. So you don't have to tell them what you need to do, and what we all need to do is start fixing our family members who are still in that gray area of fear of being themselves because these same Romans keep doing stuff to them. And this is part of the social fabric that's actually falling apart here at North America. So actually look at it as an issue on the table of social studies. Because in studying it, we can correct a lot of things among our people because it gives you insight to what they're dealing with now. Just like a lot of law cases, whereas they're being sued, they're instituting Federal Rule 12b-6, diversity of nationality when it's convenient for them, but you don't see them teaching that to our people, do you? So take that in consideration. I yield the floor.
Sherry Lynn says, I thought the U.S. was dissolved on January 20th, 2021 at 12 noon.
U.S. was dissolved 1861. You know, I'm just showing you how their corruption continues, and they keep kicking what they call kicking the can down the road. They keep on violating the treaties and violating Constitution, and then keep on operating under color while calling everyone else colored. You know, just like we talk about, you know, so many people make not that it's not valid. They'll make, you know, the economic corruption here. They'll keep talking about Jekyll Island and then not talk about the coup d'etat in 1861. You see the point? The Organic Act of Congress. And then they'll keep talking about Washington, D.C. being the Capitolium when they know that the Capitolium was Shekamoxen.
Another question, though.
Go ahead.
Sherry Lynn says, where is home for them?
Home for them is accepted by virtue of naturalization, which is why Naturalization Act was set up in the first place.
So where's the physical location? I think like they're from.
Physical location, they were given or ceded territory by the Druids in Ingla land.
Who were the Druids?
The Druids was Naga Moors.
But we never see that when you see the
No, you don't.
depiction.
No, you don't.
No.
And so
Stonehenge and all that.
That's exactly correct. And you will have energy centers all around the planet that's like Stonehenge. That's not the only place. They don't tell you because they want you to think that these operations on this planet, Midgard, is younger or earlier to justify the idol god system structures that they created for the priesthood to control and subjugate humanity when we've been here for millions of years. And that's the fact. And logically, when the real history comes out, as it comes out, all of the God games that they've been playing over humanity will logically, by virtue of reality, collapse. And then the people will understand why the metaphor, the anthropomorphic Jesus reminded the people that you are all gods. And we got that to look into, don't we?
Yes.
Anyway, I want to thank you all for, coming here, sharing this night with us at the House of Reawakening Minds. And we are doing what we can intelligently and with comprehension of the wars being waged against us to try to share with you, to uplift the people as best that we're able, and encouraging you to do the same, and encouraging you to love one another and do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And the House of Reawakening Minds is here to support you. And so we ask you to support the House of Reawakening Minds to keep this platform viable and functional in spite of all the resistance and how would you say war attacks, direct and indirect. States around the world have been suffering from that same paradigm, etc. So we're sharing with you some fundamental truths and suggesting you research and affirm them, being legitimate and true for your own benefit, the benefit of your families, etc., and understand the fundamental principles that you've been told over the years about the principle of communication, of implied contracts, or linear contracts, or unconscionable contracts, etc. What affirms a contract as being valid, or what a contract is at all, and fundamental civics, which involves the fundamental principles of government structure and the nature of government or government bodies politics, and particularly persons holding any position or office in government, office of trust, and their relationship to the nationals of the land or the citizens of the land in contract relative to treaties and constitutions, which would be categorized in the same class, and the limitations of government, etc. Therefore, it's important for people to recognize and comprehend that any agency or any agency of government or any persons operating any branch of government, etc., or any corporate activities coming under the authority of any government must indeed be a creature of the Constitution. Now, that's the fact. Keeping that in mind, we're going to present to you a couple of questions for you to contemplate, etc., relative to taxes and debt. And Dr. Naila, we were talking earlier about some things, and interject and share some things with us, to help us along in our analyzing the social economic problems that are taking place today at Midgard.
Well, what I'd like to interject is what we were talking about. I had shared with you, and you're familiar with the author Peter Moon.
Oh yes, yes, I know him
And
personally.
yeah, and in his book, the Montauk Book of the Dead, at the very beginning, as a matter of fact, probably in the introduction of the book, may I share
Yeah,
a paragraph?
share some with us. Yeah.
It says, let's see, there are also many other. Let me just. I think that one of the easiest ways to explain the principle of death is through the archetypal images used in astrology. In that reference frame, death is assigned to the eighth house of the zodiac, which is the constellation known as Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
This sign not only represents death, but also sex, regeneration, and taxation.
Mm-hmm.
In astrology, subjects such as accounting, sex, including the sex trade, and morticians are ruled by Scorpio. This is particularly interesting when you consider that conspiracy theorists will tell you, not incorrectly, that populations are controlled and manipulated through sex, death, and taxation. The Catholic Church is an excellent example in this regard. They tell people how and when to have sex and seek compliance through the threat of eternal damnation. Taxation comes in the form of tithes, but also in payments for dispensation and absolution. And I think, that there is a far reaching, I guess, application.
Yes, of that.
Of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
in society and how it has framed where we are today.
Yeah, and a lot of people, don't relate to these, what you would say, metaphors that are presented in the Bible as an example, and in the Quran, etc., in relationship to the operations of, the dark priesthood relative to the folks of Rome, etc., and injuries that they have caused on the planet, etc., and upon humanity. And then you also take into account a lot of the hybrid Europeans who've been occupying our land the descendants under colonial operations, uh, starting different venues where they're exposing a lot of these truths of themselves, particularly since in their caste system that was set up by the U.S. corporation operators and owners, what they refer to, part of their hegemony operations, they refer to as the so-called middle class. And as they recognize that they are being economically and politically sacrificed, etc., it has caused many of them, as Noble Ali said years ago, decades ago, that they would be forced to tell the truth, and that many of the hybrid Europeans would be telling the truth. And so you'll see a lot of these things that we've been telling people for years being supported by a lot of the Europeans occupying North America, and some of them are members of the different secret societies. Some of them are members of the Whigmore parties, be it the Democratic and the Republican Party, and many of them are, calling themselves, neutral, etc. However, they're telling a lot of these truths that we're sharing with you today.
I think the other thing I would like to interject is the fact that the subject matter, death and taxes, which they say only things certain,
Yeah.
is an example of half truth, half lie.
Yeah.
Because while death, or what we've come to know as death, which is really a transition, is certain, taxation is not. But they've both been put together as factual, and then they add to the death portion. In both cases, fear is attached to it.
Oh,
so
always,
people are fearful of the Internal Revenue Service. People are fearful
and what
of
they call, the fear of God,
right?
Type thing. And this is even back to people, as we've talked over the years, not comprehending that as the word of God is presented to the masses, singularly as the creator, etc., among government, they know that it means government ordinance departments. And so when you're talking about the harlot or the God of this world, mentioned in the book of Revelation, particularly at 19 and point 2, subsection 2, you'll see these government agencies and branches really in every country that have been co-opted by the popes of Rome, and the people are beginning to, in these days, to recognize that reality, that political reality that has been hidden from most of the people, not knowing that, the higher percentage of all the governments on the planet Earth are actually subdivisional operations of the Vatican, and they didn't know that, and they didn't know that their taxes were actually tithes, and of course, as we talked before, which you already know, uh, um, the the bars or the Trinity stars that you see represented at the District of Columbia, those 10 square miles, with the overthrow of the Republic, and the establishment of the democracy platform for the United States Corporation Company and its owners presenting through the school system of John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, the concept of misinformation, particularly since 1902, of the United States Corporation Company actually being the nation or the country, which it was not, is not, never will be. It is an occupying corporate body of Roman Curia members under the authority of the Pope of Rome and the bishopric, and of course under the de facto Queen of England, and regulated by the Circle Church and the Chancery from Fleet Street, England, which is why the Fleet Street, England operators of the Chancery Church and the Circle Church actually govern or control all of the judicial platforms operating in the Western Hemisphere, particularly United States Corporation Company operations and Canada, etc., that have the same actual international number. And people who know this logically or from a political perspective don't speak on it because they will be attacked or they will be censored, etc. Because the people themselves are held as stock under, connotative linguistics and the branding system, and then you know the linguistic capital stock that they are put on the stock market. All their property, all so-called mortgages and derivatives, etc., are related to the people's estates, and the people aren't aware of that. And the Inquisition Revenue Service of the Inquisition of Rome is represented in contemporary times as the IRS and enforced secretly also by other three-letter agencies that all belong to the Jesuits and to the popes of Rome. And people sometimes wonder why they can't solve some of the economic and social problems that the people are suffering because they're not aware. And so I'll present this question and answer that is known by all politicians um, and also by all persons in government, peoples in the city councils, the subdivisional agencies that have been using what you call hostile tactics against the people on the streets, the ritual murders that they do of our people, etc. And people are looking for or expecting some remedy, and at the same time, sensing by historical record and chronological operations that they generally never get justice when one of their family members are ritually sacrificed on the street, etc. And they don't know why. And their assumptions are wrong because they think that these people are their government and they actually are not. They're members of the Roman Curia. Now, so the question goes to the listeners here tonight. And I want you to do the research for yourself. Don't accept what we say. Do it for yourself. Do the research. And this is one question number one. Are the Inquisition Revenue Service, that you know as the IRS, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States Department of Labor, the Mafia, and all the labor unions a part of the Vatican? And when you do your research, I'm going to give you the answer already. It is yes. And all of these different institutions, and there's others, but these are major ones that people are familiar with, that most of people, except for people in secret societies and all government persons claiming to be government, are absolutely aware of it. However, they do not, as a general rule, share this information with the people who they've been systematically raping via tithing, referred to as taxes. And for those of you who are constitutionalists and treaty enforcers, keep in mind and remember one of the ministers plenipotentiaries during the signing of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the Moors, etc., known as Thomas Jefferson, um, stated many times to the people that the ability to tax is the ability to destroy. And in his reference to members of the bar who infiltrated the Congress for the United States relative to the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution for the United States, etc., was diligent in maintaining those principles coming down from the Honor Honesty Confederation and shared with the hybrid Europeans doing business at our ports, particularly on the east coast of the Maghreb. And so most people aren't aware that the colonies were actually businesses doing business at the ports. They were not what you would call established political bodies, politics on the land, and has been taught to the people. That whole concept is a fraud. And so what has occurred over the last couple of centuries is that the hybrid Europeans, via the Germanic tribes, etc., and the priesthood, etc., had been taking leave and or claiming jurisdiction or taking over the trade routes of the Moors, etc., i.e., and thus the colony businesses, and actually have converted their trade jurisdictions of the seas under admiralty onto the land, and then use linguistic capital and connotative linguistics over the years to convince the people through misinformation that their corporate operations of the United States Corporation Company is indeed legitimately operating under the sovereign authority on the land. However, because they are not really the people of the land, this is one of the major reasons why they operate all the U.S. corporate entities are operating under admiralty and maritime jurisdictions. And people need to know why. Like people will talk about, the maritime law operations of all U.S. corporate government operations. That's really why, because they're not the people of the land. But by them having or taking control of the information platforms, suppressing erudition and the seven liberal arts, and instituting the General Education Board, 1902. It has taken them only, what you would say, a few generations to really dumb the